Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. For today's video, we're going to be taking a look at a number of different Liberal MPs and the responses to reporters' questions as the media has been ruthlessly grilling them in regards to whether these MPs are going to keep supporting Justin Trudeau, if they want him to have a caucus meeting. And we're going to be starting it off with Justin himself, as this is the first media appearance he's basically had since the by-election lost. And just take a look at him dodge this question 3-4 times.
Prochaine question.
Good morning, Prime Minister. Marika Walsh with the Globe and Mail. Why are you refusing to meet with the National Caucus? Your MPs are calling for an urgent in-person meeting of all MPs. Why are you refusing, and do we interpret from that you don't care what they have to say?
Listen, let's be very clear. Last week's by-election loss, not to sugarcoat it, was challenging. It was something we need to take seriously, and we've been engaged in lots of important conversations. I've had lots of calls with different members of caucus from across the country, not just in the GTA, to talk about how we make sure we're continuing our work connecting with Canadians, to make sure we're continuing to deliver for people. There are, as always, a range of perspectives and voices within the Liberal Party, and listening to all those voices and giving them all time to engage is really, really important. And that's what we've been doing, what I'm going to continue to do while we stay focused on delivering for Canadians.
To follow up, it doesn't matter whether you're a Liberal or a Conservative in Canada. Voters tend to give Prime Ministers, or have always given Prime Ministers in the last 100+ years, the door after 9 or 10 years. Why do you think you're different?
Listen, there is a challenge faced by democracies all around the world right now. Whether we look at what's going on in France, whether we look at the election in the United States, whether we look at any democracy around the world, where we are seeing increasing challenges to people's well-beings, greater anxieties, an erosion of democratic principles and rights, this is a really important time for governments to step up and deliver concretely for citizens.
Next question.
Sarah Levitt, CBC. With all due respect, my two colleagues have asked the same question and they have not received a specific answer. The question is, will you hold a national in-person caucus with your party, with the MPs? As
I've said, I will continue to engage and to talk and to listen and to meet with all my MPs from across the country to talk about how we can both understand what we need to improve on, given last week's by-election defeat, but also how we continue to be there for Canadians in a really important moment.
Follow up. There are members of your caucus that are considering leaving if you do stay on. What's your reaction to that? And are you willing to stay on and lose members of your caucus?
I think the conversations that I'm having with MPs directly right across the country, the conversations that we're all having as Liberals are going to continue, and we're going to stay focused on Canadians. I can't speak to what people in the media are thinking. That's your job. But I can speak to the strength and focus that all Liberals have on delivering for Canadians, and that's what we're going to continue to do.
Holy smokes, was that tough to listen to. I do apologize. I know that was a long, like 2-3 minutes. I even cut out a bunch of the fluff where he's talking about childcare and trying to make life more affordable for Canadians. Like I trimmed all that out. I just wanted him to talk about the caucus stuff, and it was still long. But as you heard there, he's willing to just have one-on-ones and not have the mob come after him, because he knows that if he can just talk to individuals one-on-one, they'll probably not say what they really want to say to him. But when you have the group coming against you, then they're more willing to actually probably tell you how they really feel. And it becomes more and more apparent as we listen to these other MPs and their response to this question, because they're just on autopilot. This is not the way they want to answer the question. This is the way they should answer the question, especially when they are maybe concerned about losing their seat or getting shuffled out of their positions. But before we get into those responses, Trudeau he says that this is a wake-up call for the Liberals and that they're trying to focus on now what Canadians want. Canadians don't need more of these programs that you're talking about, like dental, like the childcare. They want a new government. And I think the by-election loss there is wake-up call enough. But you have the reporter saying, most of the time, 9 to 10 years is enough time, and then you get shuffled out. What makes you think you're going to stay longer than that? And he acts as if, another 4 or 5 years are down the line for him, no problem. But as I mentioned, now we're going to get into some of the other clips, and this is the energy minister, Wilkinson, and he was a little bit more dead than he normally is with his response.
Hi, Mike Gill with Global National. Several of your colleagues are calling on Prime Minister to hold a meeting with the Liberal caucus to discuss the by-election loss in Toronto-St. Paul. Do you agree it needs to be held?
So I think it's important, and I think the Prime Minister has said this, for us to take the by-election result very seriously. It obviously was a disappointing result. I was in the riding myself the day before the election, knocking on doors. And clearly, voters were sending us a message. And I think we all need to digest exactly what that is and actually reset ourselves and have a more robust conversation with Canadians about not only the things that we have been doing, but what we will be doing going forward that address some of the concerns, particularly as it relates to affordability, that they have. The Prime Minister's responsibility, obviously, is to work with members of his caucus. And I know the Prime Minister, I think, said this morning he has been reaching out to individual members of caucus. I expect that he will continue to do so, as will members of Cabinet. I think that is the appropriate thing for him to be doing at this point in time. And so I think he's doing what he needs to do.
Amanda Stevenson, Canadian Press. Just to follow up on your comments about the by-election, do you still have confidence in the Prime Minister?
Yes, I very much have confidence in the Prime Minister. He is the leader of the Liberal Party of Canada. He is the Prime Minister of Canada. I have worked with him now for 9 years, and I know him very well. He is perhaps the best campaigner that I have ever seen in this country, and I have great confidence that he is going to yes, reflect on what voters were telling us in the context of the by-election, but is going to actually help us to move forward in a thoughtful way, both as a party and as a country.
Yes, the great campaigner that has the Liberal Party sitting at around 23-24% in the polls right now, and basically just lost the Liberal stronghold in St. Paul's. We should definitely keep this guy on. We have all the confidence in him. And these MPs keep giving this cookie cutter answer, a very obvious one. Yeah, he's the leader of the Liberal Party. We know that. And he's the Prime Minister of Canada. We know that. The question is, do you guys have confidence? And even when Minister Champlain was questioned if he would take over, he gave basically the same response.
Inspector from Global News. Minister Champagne, there are public calls from Liberal MPs for the Prime Minister to quit. If he does, are you planning on running for the Liberal leadership?
I have been very clear over the last few days that Justin Trudeau is the leader of the Liberal Party of Canada. I support it, obviously. And I think the thing we need to do as a team now is to focus on the issues that matter to Canadians and go win that election. Because I think the next election is about in which kind of society we want to live. What we've seen in recent elections across the world. And I think we should all take a deep breath as Canadians and reflect on which society we want to live. And I think we obviously have the most experienced team. A team which is dedicated to the well-being of Canadians.
Do you think the Prime Minister is the right person to lead the Liberal Party into the next election? And if so, why?
Well, I've been, again, very clear that Prime Minister Trudeau is our leader.
What are these? Take me to your leader.
This is just such a strange way to answer the question. We all know he is the leader of the Liberal Party. The question is if he should continue to be that, or is the confidence waning still there? Should we get rid of him? Like, that's the question at hand. But even to Champlain's other remarks saying we just need to look around the world and see what kind of society we want to be in. Yeah, a lot of other countries are voting conservative or have voted conservative because they're tired of the liberal ideologies, the woke stuff, just these programs that don't work. And Chrystia Freeland doesn't seem to get that, even though she says they're listening to Canadians now, because she starts to repeat the same things that Trudeau does. Now, I'll do my best to cut majority of that stuff out as well, because I know how people feel about listening to her. But as we get into the questions from the media, they ask her about this little mini caucus meeting that was had just recently at her house in her backyard. And her response is a little bit strange on this, where it's sort of denying it, sort of not denying it. And then they ask her about if Trudeau should be swapped out, and she has full support in him, apparently.
Laura Stone, Globe and Mail, Deputy Prime Minister. I wanted to ask you, it's our understanding that you hosted some Toronto MPs at your home last night. Can you outline for us how that came about, what they wanted to talk to you about, and how you addressed their concerns about the fallout from the St. Paul's by-election?
So I would say that's not entirely accurate. John McKay is the chair of the 416 caucus, and he chaired an in-person meeting of some 416 caucus members. I offered my backyard because it's in a central location. So we did have a meeting. John chaired it. I think it was a really, really valuable opportunity for us to talk with each other, to talk about the results of the by-election, to talk about what they mean, to talk about hearing what Canadians are telling us, and to talk about working really, really hard to do a better job of delivering for Canadians on the things that they need, on housing, on affordability, on economic growth, and doing it all in a fiscally responsible way so that interest rates can continue to come down.
Excuse me, and can you address the calls for change that are coming from some prominent Liberals who say, you know, following that by-election, something significant needs to happen. The leader needs to change, some sort of policy development needs to happen. There needs to be a symbol that the party is listening to the results, and there has to be a reaction to that. Do you think that that your government needs to make a significant change here?
The Prime Minister has my full support. I know he has the full support of Cabinet, and I know he has the full support of the vast, vast majority of Liberal MPs. The people of Toronto St. Paul's did send us a message, and it is absolutely incumbent on us to hear that message. That message was, things are hard. Life is really challenging right now, and you, our government, need to do a better job delivering for us on the things that matter in our lives. You need to do a better job making life easier for us.
So you're telling me that you needed to lose this by-election to start listening to Canadians who can't afford basic living? When there's been months and months, if not a year at least, of reporting on increased food bank usage, can't afford groceries, the carbon tax is hurting people, you can't buy a house, a lot of foreclosures on mortgages, people can't pay off their debt or credit cards because they can't save enough to do so. You have working adults having to get roommates to afford an apartment because apartment prices are out of control, rent prices are out of control. Yet losing the by-election is now waking you up to all this. You're doing a really good job of actually listening, I see. But as we move on to the next reporter, he questions her on whether she should stay the finance minister with all this revelations that are coming forward. And this was her response.
Your party is 20 points down in the polls, and you've lost one of the safest Liberal seats in the city you've represented, largely due to voters' concerns around the cost of living and their finances. Can you explain why you should stay on as finance minister?
Well, that's a choice for the Prime Minister, of course.
Well, it's funny that you say that, Freeland.
Okay, where to begin? Our colleague Althea Raj is also reporting now in the Toronto Star that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has spoken twice to Mark Carney about joining Cabinet as Finance Minister, which is a detail that I'm sure may be a shock to Chrystia Freeland. Nigan, what do you make of this kaleidoscope of Liberal revelations today?
I don't know about that panel there, but to me, it sounds like there might be some trouble in paradise with the Liberal Party, because this episode with David Cochrane came out on last Friday when the whole Wayne Long email came out to all the caucus members. So if this reporting is true and Trudeau has been meeting with Carney in regards to the finance minister, that's a huge stab in the back to Freeland. Yet a few days later, here she is still saying she supports him. Who knows what's going to happen? Maybe she'll be shuffled out to another department or to another seat, and Carney will take over as finance minister. That will probably be not any better than having her there. But as always, this is just my opinion, and I'd love to hear from you guys. So let me know in the comment section below what you thought about all this. And as always, I will catch you guys on the next one. Thanks so much.